All the sports news you need. Live.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the locker room, and we're back. This is my fifth show of the week, but you guys is fourth show of the week. It's been a busy week, and I am delighted to be joined tonight by Mr. Graham Duffy and Dave Smith. Or sometimes, as I know, as Dave the Rave. We're here until 8 o'clock tonight. No, we're not. 7 o'clock. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's been a busy week. So we're here until 7 o'clock tonight. Keep your if you're commenting, please make it nice and clean. It's a family show after all. We're on Facebook Live and YouTube as well. You can also comment on Twitter at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. So, guys, we've been here all week, so we can talk about the European football as we go along. Tonight, it's been a bit of a disappointing campaign, but before we do that, let's talk about tonight's games. And Dave will be leaving us soon to go to his beloved to see Aberdeen playing tonight. But there's a big game in the Championship, and I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of that game, actually. Cove Rangers against Queen's Park, Graham.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game. Queen's Park obviously got the 2-2 draw last week, and I think they've been really good. I mean, a great addition to the Championship. I think I said to Dave last week, could Queen's Park potentially win this league? I think there's every chance they can. I think there's potentially 7 teams could win this league. Again, I mentioned to Dave last week, the Championship for me is an absolutely brilliant league. It's just absolute nuts. I love it. And I think Cove, they've done okay, maybe a bit inconsistent. But yeah, it's got capable as being a good game. And, if Queen's Park can win this game, it would be a huge boost for them. But honestly, I said last season, I would love to see Arbroath in the Premier League. They couldn't quite make it. I'm going to say it now. I would love to see Queen's Park in the Premier League, and I really hope they can do it.
I think the reaction from Cove Rangers is going to be extremely important tonight because, let's be honest, they were 4-1 up at Hamilton last week, and Hamilton obviously got back to drawing 4 apiece, and that was a disappointing one for Cove Rangers. Obviously, Jim McIntyre wasn't present last weekend because he was tested positive for COVID, and I think the reaction from Cove Rangers tonight is pivotal. I mean, drawing a game against Hamilton isn't exactly the worst result in the world, but in that particular scenario, it 100% is. So it's a massive game for Cove tonight, but also it's a massive opportunity for Queen's Park to put pressure on the teams at the top. Because let's be honest, did we see Ayr, Morton, and Queen's Park being the top 3 or the top 4 respectively at the beginning of the season? Not a chance.
Okay, so that's the game tonight on the TV. And another game on TV tonight is Aberdeen. Dave. Oh, sorry. Right, okay. So I was getting all excited last night, Graham,
American TV. His goal. It is on TV. It's on his goal.
Yeah. So basically last night when we came off air, right, me and Dave was talking about the price of fish and milk at the moment, right? And we got into speaking about tonight's game, and it basically said to me that Aberdeen game was on the TV, and I was like overexcited. I won't tell you what I said because it's a family show. But now I find out that the game's on the TV, Graham. What are we working with here?
I know, but at least you get to see Cove against Queen's Park. But no,
exactly.
It would have been good to have this game on Sky or BT because it's a big game tonight. Aberdeen need a reaction after last week's defeat at Ibrox, and it's not just a defeat; it's a performance. Jim Goodwin spoke a good game before the game, and it didn't really happen. So they need a reaction, and I think at Pittodrie they are a very good side. Aberdeen they score goals at Pittodrie. Hibs, sitting third in the league, a chance if they win tonight to stretch the lead over Aberdeen to 4 points. So it's a big game. I think as well, you've also got the caveat of Jim Goodwin with his comments about Ryan Porteous the last time. Obviously, his ban has been reduced, so that's a huge lift for Aberdeen, but it's a big game tonight. I think Aberdeen, for me, are probably favourites because they're at home. But Hibs, they started to get a decent run going. They beat St Mirren 3-0 last week, a good performance as well. So, yeah, it should be an interesting game. I do think Aberdeen will win tonight, but it's going to be a very difficult game, I think.
Don't worry, Dave. We love you. We love you. You're the number 2 journalist behind me, but there you go. You'll get to see, because the highlights are on tonight as well, after the Queen's Park game, I think. Maybe Dave was getting mixed up with the highlights instead of the live game. I don't know.
I was just getting too excited about the fact that I'm going tonight, so yeah.
Yeah, I know David's going to the game. I'm looking forward to this one, Dave. It should be a good game.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, Jim Goodwin's obviously in the stands tonight. I'll be interested to see how they get on, actually, in that regard, because the last time he was in the stands, Aberdeen got obliterated by Dundee United 4-0 at Tannadice. So, and that's exactly what he did. Aberdeen had pushed everything within their peril to make sure Jim Goodwin go back to onto the dugout, even if it was for a shorter time than anticipated. So, it's going to be a hard week without Jim Goodwin in the touchline. Also, it's going to be an interesting one. But as Jim's kind of went and said, the only difference from his point of view will be the fact that he can't really go and speak to players at half time. Warm up is irrelevant because it's the sports science team, and Lee Sharps, the manager, really does it. You do have pre-match meeting 3 hours before kick-off, so no real difference in that regard. And then obviously he'll be in the stands during the game. And obviously, he'll be right beside the VAR, beside where Batodra is. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one, especially if Jim Goodwin's sitting in that specific area in the director's box tonight. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. As Graham says, Hibs are a decent side. They're getting some good form about them just now. Got a good win against St Mirren last week, and it's going to be a tough game for Aberdeen this evening. But Aberdeen are really good at home. It's going to be an interesting one because, obviously, Aberdeen, they're a tale of two different shores, aren't they? They're a strong side at home, and we'll get fished away from home. They've been, well, apart from taking my the equation here, they've been battered by Rangers, they've been battered by Dundee United, and they've been battered elsewhere, battered by Hibs as well. For me, Ryan Porteous is going to be an interesting one for me tonight. I don't think what's happened the last time will have any major concept on tonight's game. But at the same time, I do know the Lee Johnson's been out in the press saying that obviously he needs to keep a ice in the head but fire in the belly. And I think it's the right face they're using it. But just to see if Ryan Porteous does that, but I don't think I don't think that relevance will have a big factor tonight, in all honesty, because obviously Jim Goodwin's nowhere near the dugout tonight. So it's going to be an interesting game. It should be a hotly contested clash between two very good sides.
Maybe they'll share a pie after the game, and if you see the two of them take a photo. Graham, I'm going to speak about your favourite player. It was reported on the Scottish Daily Express today that the Hibs striker Martin Boyle has been told that he'll be fit for the World Cup. So that's a bit of a boost to Hibs, but also to Australia. But it's funny because when Lee Johnson was asked a question yesterday as press conference, he wasn't too sure about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Martin Boyle is a big player, but for me, I don't think he's done really as much as I thought he would when he came back to Hibs. He has scored a few goals, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been as big an outlet as I thought he would be. And I think there obviously was massive concerns he was going to be injured now for quite a while. So it's good for Hibs that he's going to be back fit. It's obviously great for Australia. There's only a few games left to the World Cup. I think actually this World Cup's coming at a really good time. I think it's going to give every team a decent break and a chance to get certain players back for fitness. So, yeah, Boyle's going to be a big player for Hibs. And, Lee Johnson's probably trying to play it down in his press conference. That's what managers tend to do. They play things down. They don't want to give too much away. So, the sooner Martin Boyle's fit for Hibs, the better. But I just think tonight it is such a big game because if Aberdeen can win this, they'll jump into third place. And I think for me, if I'm an Aberdeen fan, I'm looking for a big reaction after last week because that was a disappointment against Rangers. Now, don't get me wrong, Rangers played well, but, Rangers had 36 attempts last week, and Aberdeen, really didn't do enough last week. They were very, very poor. And, you know, Dave's touched on the away form. Away form, they've not been great. But at Pittodrie, now I mentioned this to you guys on the chat last night as well when I messaged on Facebook yesterday. That Hearts game a few weeks ago, Hearts had 2 gilt-edged opportunities in that game for Cochrane and Shankland and didn't take them. And Aberdeen took the 2 chances they had. So, you know, you can get at this Aberdeen team. But I think at home they're a good side. But I just think they need the reaction after last week, because that, from an Aberdeen point of view, and given Jim Goodwin's comments in the press before that game, that was nowhere near good enough from Aberdeen last week.
Lee Johnson said yesterday it will be a challenging game going up to Aberdeen tonight, but one we're looking forward to, and there's 9 points to play for before the World Cup. I think he's right, Dave, but I think Aberdeen will have something else to say about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to give you some clarification on this, by the way, because the reason why Martin Boyle was unconfirmed is because Lee Johnson did press on Wednesday, and it wasn't confirmed to Wednesday night about Martin Boyle. So that's the reason why.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, it's going to be a tough game, isn't it? Pittodrie is always a tough game for any away side, and Hibs have found going up to Pittodrie in the past very, very tough. I mean, they've had a few defeats, I remember, recent times, and I haven't really done my homework for this, but surprise. But I'd love to know the last time the Hibs went up to Pittodrie and won comfortably. It'd be a while. But I think that shows the challenge the Hibs have at their disposal tonight, and they're a good side, and I'll be just to see how they go on tonight. I mean, tonight, if I'm in my honest opinion, is a good test to see how their credentials are going to be. Obviously, they've done well against like St Mirren's and that, but let's not forget here, guys. Hibs had lost 3 straight games in a row prior to last Saturday, which tells you everything you need to know about the fact that Hibs could be inconsistent. And tonight will give us a big indication about where Hibs are going.
It'll be a good atmosphere tonight, Dave. Do you know if it's a full house?
It's not a full house. I'm predicting there's about at least 15,000 tickets sold, though. I know Hibs are bringing up 1,400.
Yeah. So, Graham, I would be interested to see if I would be interested to see kind of like this game, because as Dave was saying that Lee Johnson got off to a good start. Like you would call it the honeymoon period, but the last few games they've been pretty poor.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to that game at Celtic Park when they got absolutely hammered 6-1, and that was a massive letdown for Johnson. You heard his comments after the game. He wasn't happy, rightly so, because Hibs were very poor. But that game last week will give them confidence, you know, scoring 3 goals against St Mirren. And to be fair, they dominated that game as well. They played some decent stuff. So I think Johnson will be looking forward to this game tonight. But I just think if you look at Aberdeen, for me, the 3 games for the World Cup, they've got 3 winnable games. They play Hibs tonight at home. They got Livingston next week away from home on Tuesday, and then they're at home at Dundee United. I think that could potentially be 3 potential wins for Aberdeen there. So they've got big games coming up. But Hibs, I think, tonight, away from home, I'm interested to see what they do, because away from home, they've not been particularly great. At Easter Road, they are a different outfit. So I'm interested to see what Johnson does tonight. But I just think Aberdeen with that home advantage and the way they play at home, I fancy Aberdeen to sneak it tonight by the odd goal, maybe 2-1.
Dave, what's the word on the street about Jim Goodwin? Because obviously, from down here, I think he's gonna a wonderful job up in Aberdeen.
Yeah, but I've kind of hinted on a couple of shows on here previously that he's not a Robbie Nielsen type, but performances away from home have meant that the minority have the knives out for him, which is understandable because there has been a few pitiful performances this season. On the whole, a lot of positivity. He's changed a lot, Jim Goodwin. The away dugouts are now the home dugouts because of the linesmen, where they're based at Pittodrie. Jim Goodwin felt that a lot of the opposition managers at the time were getting a lot of joy when it came to offsides and such like. Although I know VAR is all said now, but that's what Jim Goodwin thought was going on. And yeah, there's a lot of positivity about Aberdeen just now. It's about keeping it going, and it's about getting the right formula in order to go and get a result. I mean, I'm having a look here, and I don't want to jinx this, but I might be horribly wrong. May 2012 is the last time Hibs went to Pittodrie and won. And as I say, I don't want to jinx it because obviously I'm going to the game, but yeah, that is a pretty daunting start from the Hibs point of view, and they'll want to rectify that because that's 10 long years since they went and won at Pittodrie. We're not speaking about Rangers and Celtic here, and sides still got to beat them. We're speaking about Hibs not going to Pittodrie and winning in 10 years. And let's be honest, Hibs have had some poor sides, they've had some good sides, and they've been okay in spells. And as I say, Hibs don't have a pretty good record at Pittodrie at all. Every game I've been to Aberdeen, Hibs have always came out the losing side. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And I mean, I'm interested to see Martin Boyle plays tonight for me because is he 100% fit to play for Hibs first and foremost? But then, if you're the Australia head coach, you're watching that game tonight because there's 99 times out of 100 chance you'll be watching that game, and he'll have head and hands moment if he's playing. You'll be listening to Rob McLean or whoever's doing the commentary tonight going, please don't mention Martin, please don't mention Marlon, please don't mention Marlon. That's exactly how it is. But no, it's going to be an interesting game tonight, and as Graham touched upon already, it's going to be fascinating to see how both teams get on, especially because both teams are close to each other points-wise just now.
Dave, am I right? I was just going to say, Dave, am I right in thinking that this is the first game at Pittodrie that's got VAR in it?
Yeah. Aberdeen put out a statement yesterday saying we'll look at everything that's going to be happening, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, going to be intriguing.
Nice comment there from Feig Bear. Is it Roy Aiken? No.
Is it Yogi Bear? Is it Boo Boo? Which bear is it?
Or is it or the Goose Hungry? Good evening, lads. I have subscribed to the channel. Hopefully you're going well. Yeah, that's the thing. We're on YouTube as well, so you can subscribe to the independent channel and
we have a newbie.
Yeah, we have a newbie, a baby, a bear, even try and get out that one. But yeah, we've got a new person to the whole family, so that's good. Yeah, you can subscribe to the channel as well because we've got content every night for you here on Independence Live. A big bear, okay, that's fine. We'll move swift on from. Yeah, well done. Well done. Yeah, so you can subscribe to the channel just to let you know that we're on every Friday night between 5 and 7 and Sunday 3 until 5. So there you go. You must be here because we talk football and a lot of nonsense and that's just me and other sports as well. So that's tonight's game, Aberdeen against Hibs. Let's go to Ayrshire, Graham, for our second Premiership game of the night. Kilmarnock against Livingston. Kilmarnock's basically picked up over the past couple of weeks. I don't know if that's because we Dell, as is referred to by David Martindale, has signed a 4-year deal because it was quite funny listening to him yesterday because it wasn't Derek, it was we Dell is doing a brilliant job. And I don't know if it's because he signed was it a 4-year deal he signed or something like that. But and I saw Livingston last week.
4-year deal.
Yeah, I saw Livingston last week against Celtic as well. I thought Celtic bossed him about a wee bit. But anyway, what do you think of the game tonight, Graham?
Well, firstly, cheers for those comments. Feed the bear. It's nice to be appreciated and tell all your mates that we're here because it's always good to get new folk on. Yeah, I think in terms of Kilmarnock, I think I've said before as well, the thing for me about Kilmarnock is they don't score enough goals. Now, again, you're looking at Kyle Lafferty, who's got that 10-game ban. I'm still not convinced by Ollie Shaw. I still think Ollie Shaw is more a championship striker. I think the big thing for Kilmarnock is Daniel Armstrong. He's been very impressive. Now, last week against St Johnstone, it wasn't a great game against St Johnstone, let's be honest, and obviously that deflected goal by Stevie May. But Kilmarnock have picked up a little bit. They're not conceding as many goals these days. And I think at home, these are the games you need to win if you're Kilmarnock. You know, games against Celtic, Rangers, you're probably not going to win them. But at home to teams like Livingston, no disrespect to Livingston, you're looking to pick up 3 points there and try and get up that table. So this is a big chance for Kilmarnock tonight to get those 3 points. Again, I don't want to be horrible here, but I don't think the crowd that will be part is going to be particularly great tonight. Friday night, Kilmarnock, Livingston, it's not going to be great, let's be honest. So it's a big game for both teams. And I think Livingston, listen, I like David Martindale. I think David Martindale is brilliant. And I think he mentioned something. What was it he said yesterday? I think I saw something yesterday about David Martindale where he said that, I think it was Ange Postecoglou was getting at, because Postecoglou basically said
Carter Vickers' injury.
Yeah, he said that Carter Vickers' injury was caused by the plastic pitch, and obviously David Martindale said, well, we don't have any injuries, we play on at the time, so I can see his point. I think a lot of things does get said about that plastic pitch. I'm not a massive fan of it myself, but it suits Livingston and the way that they play. I think tonight is a big, big game, and I keep going back to him, but Joel Nouble, for me, could be the main man again for Livingston tonight. I just think, I've said this numerous times on the show, I think Nouble will end up leaving in January to a bigger team than Livingston. Sorry, Livingston fans, but I think he's too good for Livingston. So it's difficult to see what's going to happen tonight. I think, do you know what? I think Livingston might sneak this. There won't be a lot of goals. Now I say that it'll be 5-4, but I just think Livingston might just sneak this tonight.
Fiegler Bears basically come up backing and says, yeah, I will let the boys know, and we'll have. So that's good. So you tell all your family and friends and, well, the whole wide world that we're here. So Dave, last week at the Livingston Celtic game, I thought Celtic played well. Joe Nouble, I thought he was getting away with a lot of fouls in the game last week.
Nouble was?
Yeah.
He's that type of guy, isn't he? I mean, he's that type of guy that will have battles with players. He's that type of guy that will tussles with players. And he's an old school striker, no way. He's not exactly a big giant leap of a striker, but he's one of these strikers that's tall. He's got a physique about him. He's got an aggression about him, and he's got everything you like to see in a striker. There's a lot of strikers that get chosen nowadays that are just tiny, pint-sized, 5'10", maybe, that can be cheeky and give defenders all sorts of problems, and obviously go and score all sorts from there. But we don't have a lot of Joel Noubles. We don't have a lot of players that can, whenever the ball comes into the box, we've got that fit. With Joel Nouble's done it time and time again for Livingston this season. He did it for both last season as well, where he'd get into good areas, he would provide pressure on defenders, he would trouble defenders. I think I've seen a thing that Kel Benedictus of Rafe Rovers, well, now the family, of course, described Joel Nouble as the best striker he's ever faced, which tells you everything you need to know, because he's played a lot of strikers, Kyle. So, yeah, that just goes to show you the type of striker he is. He's always going to be immune to giving away fouls, and he's always going to be immune to the physical battle with somebody. So that's just the type of player he is, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And for Kilmarnock, the team news is Callum Waters is back in the squad. Curtis Main and Anglo Shinnie is back for Kilmarnock as well. So it's good to see these players coming back as well. But I mean, I've been to the majority of the press conferences this week, Graham, and every manager says, well, we must win every game up to the World Cup, and that begins tomorrow. Well, in Kilmarnock or Livingston case, that begins tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 games left before this World Cup finishes, and teams will want to try and pick up points as much as they can. And I think tonight for Livingston, well, for both teams, it's a big game, especially for Kilmarnock. You know, Lancashire 10th, they need the points to get up that league. I'm still not convinced that Kilmarnock are going to be in the top 6. I think they'll probably be in and around that lower league. But it's a big game for them. They have to win this game. And I think Livingston, as I say, I like the way that they play. I like the way Martindale comes across and tries to get his teams to play football. And you know what you're going to get with Livingston. They're going to be tough to beat. They're going to be right in your face. They're going to be really physical. And this is one of these games tonight that I just think one goal could prove crucial. And I just think Livingston might just have maybe a little bit more than Kilmarnock do. Because as I say, for me, Kilmarnock don't score enough goals. I just want to touch on something as well. I know we've left the Championship, but Dave's talking about Joe Newbley there. And I just wanted to touch on a guy that plays in the Championship that, again, I don't think will be in the Championship for much long. And he's kind of got similar traits to Joe Newbley. And that's a United guy, Dipo Akinyemi. I think he's a really good player, a really good prospect. And again,
good player. Yeah. Teams are starting to sniff him out a little bit. Teams are starting to understand what he's like now. Teams are doubling up. I seen this at Gayfield last Saturday when I was there for the Brothers there. Defenders are doubling up on him now because they know how much of a threat he is. But don't get me wrong, that's a good thing from an air point of view because it tells you it's respectable towards people. But exactly the same time, it allows Bradley Young and Josh Millen a lot of time on the ball. A lot of time. And they got a lot of joy out of Millen and Young. They played a 4-3-3 last Saturday and they got a lot of joy from Millen and Young because they're both doubled up on Depot. And I'm predicting, that a lot of Championship sides will do that when they play out of the season. Obviously, air or live and telly next Friday night, so that'll give the viewers across the country a better indication and a better idea of what air's going to be like this year. But I was very impressed with air last weekend, and Depot's certainly played a major part in that. But also, one player I've got to mention, I'm not just mentioning it because I interviewed him, but I think he's got to be mentioned anyway, is Jaden Mitchell-Lawson. What a player, a good player. Trickery. He's not a number 9, but he's trickery. He won the penalty for a first goal and tucked away a superb second goal to seal 3 points for Ayr. So good from that point of view. But I think every Kilmarnock fan will tell you that they want to be speaking about Kilmarnock in this show, not Ayr United. So we'll go back onto Kilmarnock and obviously what a massive game this is tonight for both sides, because if Livingston win tonight, there's a 7-point gap to Livingston and Kilmarnock, which you look at it, right? And if that 7-point gap or even more or even less, whatever way you want to put it, is like that as we head towards the World Cup, that could be massive heading into the Christmas and New Year period for both sides.
I know I've mentioned this before potentially a while ago. I can't remember, but I'm going to say it again anyway. I genuinely think that David Martindale is probably vastly underrated as a manager, and I'm surprised that whenever jobs come up that he's not named for them, because I think he's such a good manager. He's always very honest in his interviews. I think he gets the best out of what he's got, and I just think I'm really surprised that bigger teams don't come in for a guy like David Martindale.
Do you know why I think he doesn't? I think he's got too much authority at Livingston. It's not a bad thing. I'll admit that. I'll add to that. It's not a bad thing that he's got a lot of authority at Livingston. But you look at Davy Martindale and the way Livingston are structured both on and off the park, he's got so much authority in that football club, right? I mean, Livingston would quite simply have to go into transition as a football club if Davy Martindale was to go. But would Davy Martindale get the same time and would he get the same respect at Dundee United? Would he get the same respect at Hearts? Would he get the same respect at Hibs? Would he get the same respect at Motherwell? I don't think he would.
Say that again. I do think the only thing that lets Livingston down and David Martindale is a fan base. You know, I mean, obviously I was at Livingston last week and I've not been there for a wee while. Nice to go back. Nice pies, by the way, as well. Macaron pies.
Celtic had 2 stars last week, did they?
Yeah. Not 2-3, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah. But Rangers does that as well when they go there as well. I mean, it's a nice wee Skigam. I don't know if you guys has ever been. Nice wee Skigam, easy access in and out. But I mean, it's just a fan base that kind of lets Livingston down a wee bit as well.
Yeah, they're like that. I mean, they're not exactly a well-run club, pardon me, but they're not exactly a well-backed fan base. But this probably goes way back. Obviously, they were called Meadowbank Thistle, and let's be honest, is Livingston a community really renowned and a community that's mad in football? Not necessarily. You've got Airdrie, you've got Edinburgh teams, you've got Glasgow teams. I mean, let's be honest. I was walking down to Gayfield last Saturday. I know we're speaking with Lawrence here, but I was walking down to Gayfield last Saturday and I seen a guy, a wee boy, he must be about 6 or 7 years old, and he was having a kick about in his garden with his mate, right? And he had a Rangers top on. And I'm talking about 2 minutes down the road from Gayfield. And I'm like, you must, surely you must have some form of interest in that growth. Yeah, he's wearing a Rangers top 2 minutes away from a growth in the second tier of Scottish football. And that's the thing. I think Livingston's exactly the same, right? I think Livingston's just one of those that if there's anybody from that community, they'll go and support Rangers or Celtic, or they'll go and support an Edinburgh team just because maybe Livingston have had their past misdemeanours.
But I think Livingston is am I right in thinking Livingston is one of the new towns? So it's not been about forever. So maybe that's why they've not got a big fan base. I know it's not in that just, but I'm just thinking, well, Livingston wasn't always there.
Probably.
I like the spaghetti head. It's good.
Yeah. And if they want to sing them, if they want to sponsor the show, by all means, because we like the pies in this show. Well, I do anyway. Okay, move swiftly on now. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very kind of interesting game, that one, because you don't know what you're going to get for Livingston home or away. I mean, I always speak about Livingston on the show about Ross County because you're never going to know what you're going to get, kind of like home and away, and all that. And David Martindale was asked the question yesterday about it as well, and basically what he was saying was, like teams like Camargue and Dundee United against Johnson is at our level because like the last 2 games. They were playing Rangers at Ibrox and Celtic last Sunday at Livingston, and I mean let's face it, that's like Champions League games to Livingston. If you see where I'm coming from there, in terms of money and the fan base as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, whenever Livingston play Celtic or Rangers, it's all a big payday for them. I mean, it's probably exactly the same whenever they play the Edinburgh side as well, considering the close proximity between Edinburgh and Livingston. Considering it's only, 20 minutes of train? Is it, 25 minutes by driving to Livingston? So, yeah, I'm pretty sure whenever they play a Glasgow or Edinburgh team, it's a payday for Livingston. I mean, I think Livingston are lucky with Martindale. And Graham's hit the bat nail on the head. They're lucky to have Martindale because, let's be honest, Livingston are a Premiership club in their own right. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're a Premiership club without Martindale.
You might wonder why I never say again the team news from Livingston. But David Martindale says everybody's fit in the squad. That's why I haven't got you a kind of update on the squad for tonight's game. So that's the games tonight: Aberdeen against Hibs, Camargue against Livingston. Figler Bear says I fancy a score draw tonight. So with Livingston and Camargue, it's actually Camargue and Livingston, but we won't beat about the bush about it. Figure bear, but a bush bear. So I thought that was quite funny, that joke. But anyway, let's move on to tomorrow's games. I'm going on to pantomime this year. I don't know if you know that, guys, but
oh no, you're not.
Oh, I was in for that. Well done. Tomorrow's game then, Celtic against Dundee United. Now we have spoken about Celtic a lot this season. For the past couple of weeks in the Champions League. We'll come back to Celtic in a minute because they had their AGM today, and I was quite funny actually because when I come on here, before I came on here, I was listening to Angie Postecoglou, and they were asking them about the injury update. And they said, no, there's no injury update, but the chairman's looking fine, looking fit to play. Of course, that was Ian Banker's final AGM before he kind of like steps down as well. So Dundee United, Dave, I think you'll be better qualified to speak about Dundee United than me and Graham, because obviously you spoke to Liam Fox in the past couple of weeks. But anyway, so I was the first question, Dave, of the press conference. Guess what the first question was?
It'll open. For Dundee, you mean?
Yeah.
It'll be something about how do you avoid a 9-0 drubbing or something, or how do you avoid what happened the last time, or something along those lines.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no, that wasn't the first question.
It wasn't about Tony Watt and his red card getting rescinded, was it?
Well done, Graham. Yeah, yep. And basically, he said, I'm very happy that the red card get the thing. I'm a big fan of VAR, but we've got to get it right. So that's what he said. And then they were asking him about the 9-0, but he said, that's got nothing to do with me, because I wasn't in charge of Dundee United then. I was a certain Graham's pal, Mr. Ross. So Dundee United, Dave, what do you think going into this game tomorrow?
Well, can I start on Tony Watt and say it's a massive own goal by VAR? Simple as, because I've got sympathy for John Beaton, funnily enough. John Beaton's obviously doing what every Graham Duffy would have done, what Michael McCune would have done, and that's play on, right? And then John Beaton's getting told by somebody from the Baillieston Blazers saying, "Can you go and have a look at a monitor?"
I think Fiedler Bear would love that comment, like you said, Dave. So you're guaranteed that Fiedler Bear's going to come back now every week. But yeah, carry on.
Anyway, John Beaton's told by VAR or whoever was David Monroe. That was the guy, David Monroe. He was told by David Monroe to go and have a look at the monitor, and then the footage. They didn't have every angle available, which for me is disappointing and pitiful. And also at exactly the same time, you knew straight away, going by what Liam Fox was saying, was a little bit. It seemed as though he was quietly confident it was going to go his way, because he was speaking to a BBC reporter about it, and he told the BBC reporter, and the BBC reporter was a little bit unconvinced, and the BBC reporter was like, "Are you sure?" I think that BBC reporter said a bit of a slap in the face. I'm not going to name the reporter, obviously, but I think the BBC reporter said a bit of a slap in the face. I'm not going to start naming names or say who did what on whatever show, whatever have you. But yeah, when you look at Liam Fox, he's just deserved. But what's Tony Watt's reward out of this? What's Dundee United's reward out of this? Well, Tony Watt's reward is go and run 10, 15 kilometres at Celtic Park tomorrow. Because quite simply, is Celtic going to be dominant tomorrow? I think they will be. Will Celtic be on the front foot tomorrow? I think they will be. Will Celtic use the fact that they've got a lot more quality to good use? I think they will do. So, Tony Watt's assignment tomorrow will be to try and get loose balls, try and battle. But always about trying to get 10, 15 kilometres in the park tomorrow. That's all that's his reward for, obviously, this appeal. But for Dundee United, this rescinded situation, it's no use to them now. Because, let's be honest, Dundee United were without a striker that scored 3 goals in 6 games for 50 minutes on Saturday. But let's be honest, it was against a Motherwell side that lost the last 4 prior to go to Tannadice on Saturday. So that just shows you how pivotal that red card decision was in the outcome of the game. And for me, it's a worst case scenario for VAR. It's a test case for VAR. And the big question is, will things be rectified this weekend? Because there's a lot of questions and answers to be told. As for Dundee United, sorry, the Quincy wanted to go to Dundee and have a good go to Celtic, have a good performance. First and foremost, as you say, Michael, or as you hint, I think they need to improve what happened at Tannadice the last time. Now, that isn't Wayne Fox's control, 100%. It was Jack Ross that picked the team, it was Jack Ross that had the overall set of decisions. But ultimately, Wayne Fox was part of the operation. And he'll know more than anybody else how brutal that afternoon in Sandeman Street was for Dundee Football Club. And it's up to him now to get a team in the park that's going to first and foremost get a good performance in. But secondly, try and get something out of the game. But try and get something out of the game is secondary, in my honest opinion, to try and get a good performance in. So for me, I think Dundee still have to go give a good account of themselves. They've got bigger fish to fry. And I think that's Wednesday against Kilmarnock, which is a massive game for United.
Graham, before we touch upon the game, Dave has opened a can of worms there. Well, not a can of worms, but it's a subject close to my heart, VAR. And obviously, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because we're only on until 7. But, I mean, I never saw the game last weekend, but I followed the group chat, and you guys were saying that it was it was unfair to Tony Watt as well. But because Dundee United was going to turn in and all that risk is history. But the point is, we're never going to get VR right in this country, because as you and me always says this every week, and we'll repeat it till Christmas and New Year and whatever, it depends who's watching the VR in, as Dave was saying, a local pub or, whatever. But again, I go back to the point about, we're never going to get it right as well unless we've got full-time officials.
Sorry, Graham. This full-time officials has nothing to do with it. Full-time officials is extremely irrelevant. You do not need full-time officials in order to get VAR right or wrong. It's about ultimately what they do in the Baileystown Blazers room down the road, right, or beside where you're based. It's not about full-time officials. Full-time officials. I hate this full-time officials. I'm going to open a can of worms here. I hate this full-time officials terminology. Scottish Premiership referees get paid £650 to referee a game. That's a full-time wage for us, right? So it's not as though they're part-time referees, right? They're guys that basically get paid a lot of money to run about all week and then go and run about for 3 hours or 2 hours on a Saturday or whatever as they game through the week. That's all they do. Graham, sorry.
That's all right. I was ready to rant about this, but Dave's kind of took most of my points, but I'm going to say it anyway. So when I saw that red card had been rescinded, my initial thought was, that's a worry for me. Because as Dave rightly mentioned, John Beaton at the time was watching that incident and gave nothing. He waved play on. He didn't think there was anything wrong with that. And then Stevie Wonder, in that little box wherever he is, decides, do you know what? You need to have a look at that. So John Beaton goes to have a look at it. He's not shown every angle. He sees a still image of what looks like a really poor challenge. But if you run it on, there's no touch there. There's nothing in that. And then after all that, it's now got overturned. For me, it's an absolute ridiculous decision in the first place, made even worse by the fact that it's been rescinded, having somebody looked at that in the studio, having then John Beaton looked at it, and they still got it wrong. That's a worry for me. And I think VAR is going to be, it's here to stay, which is fine, but it needs to be polished up a lot better, because that was just a really poor decision. But it's quite funny because everyone seems to have different opinions on it. Some folks say it's a Stonewall red card. Some folks say it's not. I said at the time last week that wasn't a red card. You could see different angles. It wasn't a red card. So the fact that a referee in that little room has decided John Beaton needs to look at it, John Beaton has then looked at it and gave a red card, and it's been rescinded, makes the referee look really stupid. And listen, it's not John Beaton's fault. He wasn't shown the full angle. But I just think it's ridiculous that after all this time, as Dave has mentioned, United have had to play 50 minutes, a man down, for a decision that should never have been made in the first place. VAR is going to have to get sorted out very quickly. And again, me and Dave mentioned this last week, that I think it was Ian Maxwell said VAR is going to be horrendous for the first few months. Well, he's not wrong. It's only been here 3 weeks and I can't believe it already. But it's just, that's, for me, that was a really poor decision. And the fact it's been rescinded just shows how poor a decision that was.
I think football is going to be ending up like American football, because American football's on for hours. Football's going to be on for hours as well, because was it the Celtic Hearts game the other week, 7 minutes, and okay, there was a couple of subs during that time as well.
What time did you leave Livingston Sunday?
I just came back for the show last night.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, but the point is this, Dave, like the game's actually going to get longer and schedule, the shorter as well, because I mean, obviously when the ref goes pointer, I think he's playing charades or something when he goes over a TV monitor. I swear that every match official in Scotland loves that, because everybody's focusing on him. You actually forget that there's a game of football on, because the attention turned away. The attention comes away from them, and all the limelight goes on to the rest. But
Can I be honest, Michael? We'll obviously speaking with Celtic in a minute, so obviously concentrating them in just a minute, but I'll be really honest with you and say the VAR decision deflected away from what was a poor defeat from Dundee last Saturday.
Definitely. So we're going to have a 2-hour special next week looking at VAR as well, and we're going to invite Willie Corum. No, I'm on the kidding that. So the Figs of Bear come back. Okay, so talk about Celtic then. Obviously disappointing in the Champions League, get knocked out before bonfire night and all the rest of the jokes that we come up with. But domestic league, they've been absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've used that word numerous times, relentless. I know they lost to St Mirren a couple of weeks ago, but that was kind of just one of these freak results. St Mirren did play well that day. But Celtic in league form are just, Celtic are a fantastic side, especially at Celtic Park. And I really feel that tomorrow could be another hammering. They hammered Hibs a few weeks ago. I think they could do the same tomorrow at the United side. And I think Celtic will have learned a lot from the Champions League experience. As I've said, in every game, they've been competitive. They've just not been clinical enough. Even the other night against Madrid, I actually thought Celtic played quite well, but Madrid were just really clinical. So I think tomorrow Celtic they can afford to make a few changes and still be very comfortable, I think. And I think as well, just being at Parkhead tomorrow, the fact that they could stretch the lead even further over St Rangers, who've got a difficult place at McDermott Park on Sunday. I just think Celtic will be far too strong tomorrow. And, I think they will. If they get an early goal tomorrow, it could be another Hibs again. It could be 6 or 7, which has got me worried for United. But Celtic domestically, they are just so strong. They've got such a good squad, such a solid squad. And you add to that, they're still missing the likes of Callum McGregor. Jota's just back from injury. They've just got such a strong squad. And I just can't see anything other than a comfortable Celtic win tomorrow.
Dave, Andy Postecoglou said to get at his press conference, we will take lessons from the Champions League and turn into where kind of like league form. And that's the thing as well, because we were talking about over the couple of weeks in the show, Celtic needs to take their chances, because if they took their chances in the Champions League, we would be talking about the last 16 for Celtic.
It's actually funny, Michael, because I was wondering why Ange Postecoglou was looking so dapper in his suit when doing the press conference this afternoon. And I wondered why, and I just remembered in the AGM.
Yeah.
I think they'll take a lot from it in the Champions League, even although it's not went the way they'd have liked it to. But at the same time as well, they've not disgraced themselves. They've been precarious, they've been in bad situations, but they've not disgraced themselves. It's about how they get on domestically tomorrow. And they'll want to remain ruthless. They'll want to have scenarios such as Hibs a couple weeks ago when they banished Hibs for 6. They'll want scenarios of Tardis when they banished United for 9. They'll want scenarios of Hearts where, yes, they conceded 3, But ultimately, a Lawrence Shankland hat-trick was obliterated and relinquished by the fact that Celtic blew them away with 4. No one ruthless shows like that will make them and make people know that they're one of the best in the country. And last season showed they were one of the best in the country. Tomorrow's a terrific opportunity for Celtic to go and say, look, we've had a disappointing Champions League campaign, but we've got a mentality. A mentality that we can go back from adversity and put on an absolute show by knocking Dundee United for a certain amount of goals.
Joe Hart was up at the press conference, Graham, and basically they were asking him about the Champions League, and again, a bit like what Angie Postecoglou says, he says we need to learn and take those chances, but we're learning every time. Fair comment from Joe Hart there, Graham.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, we've mentioned numerous times on the show again that Celtic had about 70 odd attempts in the Champions League and only scored 3 goals out of it. So that's something they need to learn for next season and come back stronger. But I think just the way that Postecoglou sets his team up, as I said before, he could easily go defensive and say, you know what, we're just going to sit back. But he's not done that in any of the games. He's tried to be attacking. He's tried to play on the front foot. And I think if you're a Celtic fan, you like that style. So I think next season, I don't think Postecoglou will change very much. And yeah, it is a learning experience. As I said, you look at a guy like Greg Taylor, who looked like he was out the door before Ange Postecoglou came in, and he's probably been Celtic's best player this season, I think. He's been brilliant. The turnaround has been brilliant. Again, Jota comes off the bench and scores an absolutely wonderful free kick the other night. And it will be a learning experience. And Joe Hart, he's got plenty of experience. It'll be great for him as well to have this Champions League games under his belt. And Celtic, I've no doubt, will come back stronger. I think for me tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised if Celtic did make a few changes, like David Turnbull coming in. I think he should get more game time. I think he's a quality player. I think for me, again, Aaron Moy, I think is a decent player. I think he might start again tomorrow. But as I say, Celtic have got such an array of quality in that team. You bring in Giakoumakis, you could easily rest Kyogo if you needed. So Celtic have just got such quality all over that pitch, and this Champions League experience will be great for them. They'll come back a lot stronger next season, and Celtic now have to win this league again this season and get back there. And I've already said this. I think they will. I think they've got far too much for Rangers. I think they'll win this group far too comfortably. I think they'll win this league comfortably. Tomorrow, honestly, I feel for United because I honestly think this could be another 6 or 7.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to speak about it's a funny card this weekend because there's games on tonight, games tomorrow, games on Sunday as well. The last game tomorrow is Ross County against St Mirren. Dave, and before you comment, one of our number one fans, and it's between him and Siegel Bear now. I don't know why. Rig Scott says, "Hi, Clips. Keep up the good work. And the Celtic podcast, Radio will find your channel." Don't know what you mean by your last bit there, but yeah, I like your comment. Keep it coming. Dave.
Hi, Red Scotland. Pardon me. It's just obviously Red Scotland was part of the Celtic state of mind whenever we were on. So I hope you're well, mate, and keep things going. But as for tomorrow's game, looking forward to tomorrow's game because obviously Ross County haven't exactly been consistent this season, have they? I mean, flip that. The other side is St Mirren have been firing all cylinders, haven't they? Beat Celtic at Paisley. Sorry, guys. And obviously they're doing very, very well. They've had a few disappointing results in there, such as Rangers and Hibs, but I think you would sacrifice that for the season they've had so far. I think you'd sacrifice that massively because, let's be honest, everybody's tipped to go down. Alex Grieve is in a terrific season, and Ross County are vulnerable defensively, which is where St Mirren could hit them tomorrow. So it's going to be an interesting game that at Dingwall tomorrow. But Ross County, they are renowned for being decent at home as well, and it's going to be an interesting tussle tomorrow, I think. And obviously, St Mirren have tightened up defensively as well. So it's going to be an interesting one, this. And obviously, both teams have been going out to get all 3 points. And for Ross County, they'll know that Dundee United are in the East End of Glasgow tomorrow. So they'll look at that and say, look, if we can get a win, pressure's on Dundee United. But ultimately, it can be a massive springboard for us if Ross County go and get a win tomorrow. As for St Mirren, if they go and get a win, well, what a difference it makes between the top six and the bottom six if St Mirren can get the job done tomorrow.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's an interesting game this tomorrow as well because Malcolm Mackay has done an okay job at Ross County. But St Mirren, I mean, they've surprised a lot of people this season. Grim.
They have. I mean, I genuinely thought that Robertson wouldn't last very long at the start of the season, and he's done a really good job. Disappointing last week against Hibs, they didn't really perform at the level that they have been, but they've had a decent season so far. You know, they're sitting fifth. It's a massive chance for them tomorrow. I think Robertson's done a good job. I think Curtis Main, who I wasn't a massive fan of, has actually started to score goals now. So yeah, you know, it's been a massive turnaround for St Mirren, and I think tomorrow is a big game. Obviously, I saw the highlights of the Ross County Hearts game last week. Ross County, they were okay in spells. They had a golden opportunity when they were 2-1 down. The header in the last few minutes that the guys put over the bar, he should score. So I think Malky Mackay's got a bit of a job there. Will they go down? I'm not sure, but I think they'll certainly be in the bottom 2 or 3 anyway. But I think it's a big game for them. They're at home. They should... You know, I think Jordan White, for me, looked really good against Hearts last week as a handful. He got his goal. So I do think, though, that they have missed the guys like Reagan Charles-Cook, who was so good for them last season in the Hung Bowl. They've not really replaced them. So they've got a lot of work to do. But Ross County at home, they are a decent side. As I said, last week against Hearts, they had a couple of chances, didn't take them. But it's a big, big game for both teams. And I do think, though, if I was going to make a prediction, I would probably just go for St Mirren. I just think St Mirren have maybe got a bit more up front about them than Ross County do. But again, it could be another tight game, potentially one goal in it again.
Keep your comments coming in. A nice comment there from Reg Scotland saying it's refreshing actually listening to the roundup of the rest of the Scottish football. That's the thing because there's other radio stations out there that just concentrates on Celtic and Rangers. No, we concentrate on every football team as well, women's football as well. And also, if you stick about to 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to speak about rugby and tennis as well, because there's a bigger event coming to Glasgow next weekend, right across the road from Celtic Park, but more details coming on that later on. So, Dave, looking at the game, Ross County St Mirren, interesting game.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you've got a Ross County side that quite simply need to try to buy a win just now. Just haven't had consistency. And a lot of people are saying Ross County are a poor side. I don't think they've hit the heights of last season. I don't want to be going to here saying they're a poor side, because if I start saying that, I think guys at Ross County would know who I am and start saying, you said we're a poor side. So, yeah.
Don't want that, I'll tell them.
So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But, yeah, Ross County simply need to get a result of some kind. I think they've got a few interesting games coming up out this, so it's going to be interesting to see how they get on in that regard. But you're up against a similar side that obviously will be fancied tomorrow, and they'll be looking at this and saying if we can get a good win, it's a massive statement, and they can continue that moving forward. But also football-wise, it should be geared up for an entertaining game, and neither side finds it tough. Neither finds it easy. Going up to Ross County. I don't think St Mirren will either tomorrow.
Just because we've got a few new people to the whole locker room family, I think this is a good point to mention that we're on Twitter as well. I guess you can follow us on the Locker Room Indie on Twitter, and you can keep up to date because we're on Twitter as well. Graham, let's before we come to your beloved Hearts. We need to speak about the game on Sunday on Sky at 12 o'clock. St Johnstone against Rangers. So, how do you think Rangers will approach the game? And also, do you think St Johnstone are getting them at a good time as well, getting out of Europe? And there's a lot of infighting. Well, it seems to me that there's a lot of infighting at Ibrox at the moment as well, and it's away from home. And before I was watching Gio's press conference today, and he was asked a question about who picks the team. So I found that quite interesting, him or Ross Wilson, and obviously he said, "Go me," and stuff. So do you think St Johnstone are getting Rangers at a good time?
I thought you were going to say Vladimir Romanov there, sending the fax machines again. I think they probably are. I think St Johnstone gave Celtic a really hard game a few weeks ago. You know, obviously Giacomakis scored in the last minute. St Johnstone have picked up. So this is going to be a difficult game for Rangers. Probably the last place you want to go after another poor Champions League result and performance against Ajax. St Johnstone have picked up, you know, Stevie May scoring goals, Nicky Clark we spoke about has been a really good signing for St Johnstone. This is a tough game. You know, I said at the start of the season I worried about St Johnstone potentially could be relegated, but they've gone on a really good run. They're sitting 8th in the league. So Davidson's, you know, got a lot of good things going on there. This is a very hard game for Rangers, and you've got to think they're going to be going there. Again, Celtic should win tomorrow, so they'll be further behind. It's a game they're going to have to win. So it's a huge, huge game. And I think St Johnstone, for me, the way they play, they get the ball forward quickly. It's a tough, tough game. And against that Rangers backline, like James Sands and Leon King, I think St Johnstone could cause them problems. And again, the first goal, I always say this, the first goal is going to be crucial. If St Johnstone can get the first goal, Rangers' reaction will be interesting because we spoke about numerous players before. Ryan Kent, for me, hasn't turned up in big games this season. I don't think they've got a lot of quality in midfield. And I think defensively they can be got at, as we've seen numerous times. So St Johnstone could be a really difficult game. And if Rangers don't have the attitude, if they're not up for this, they could find it really difficult.
Do you agree with Cam Davison's comments today? He said to the Courier that he hopes this high-profile game against Rangers helps David Wotherspoon and Ryan McGowan catch the eye of the national team manager. What does that say about Scottish football overall, Graham? Because, I mean, if they weren't playing, say, Celtic and Rangers or Hearts in their run-up to the World Cup, and they were playing against Ross County or Dundee United or whatever, like or Livingston for that matter, would you say that they wouldn't be included in the squad because it's not a high-profile game? I mean, what does that tell you about Scottish football?
Yeah, potentially. I've actually spoke to Ryan McGowan. Lovely guy, ex-Jambo, lovely. No, I mean, listen, we've said numerous times that a lot of folk don't have a high opinion of Scottish football, and at times we don't help ourselves with some of the product. And I can see people's point at times, but as we always say on this show, we'll always talk up Scottish football. And I think guys like Ryan McGowan, he's a really, really good player as well. He's committed. He's just a really good footballer. And guys like that, I'm delighted that they're getting selected for their national teams. It's great. And I think Dave mentioned this last week. You see these guys getting selected for the national teams playing in Scotland, and it's brilliant. You know, it really helps us. People maybe look at it and say, maybe Scottish football isn't actually that bad. So we need to highlight a lot more, and it's great that these guys are getting highlighted. And I just think St Johnstone on Sunday, I'm really interested in this game. I just think the way St Johnstone are playing just now, they're on the up. They got that win last week against Kilmarnock. They're a tough side to beat nowadays. I wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago. I thought they were quite easy to beat. Now they're not. They went to Easter Road and won 2-1. So they're a good side. This is going to be a really difficult game for Rangers. And as I say, if they're not up for this, they could find themselves standing down the back of a defeat.
One man also on the other side, I'm talking about Rangers, has got to catch the eye is Kovac, because I don't know if you're aware, Glenn, that he won the Player of the Month for October. But he was speaking to the media today, and they said he's hoping to be in the Croatia squad, the World Cup squad. Now, the World Cup squad for Croatia will be announced on Wednesday, so we'll know by Wednesday if Kovac is in the squad for that game. But what game, and also the other bit of news for Rangers is John Lundstrom is back in the squad after being suspended last week. he'll be back in the pool tomorrow. So what do you make of, obviously we spoke about St Johnstone. What do you think of Rangers going into this game as well?
Can't believe my boy Shanklin didn't get player of the month. Shocking. Nah, listen, Cholak's been a good signing for Rangers. 14 goals, you can't say he's not been good. He has probably been Rangers' best player this season, no doubt about that. I think Rangers have been very inconsistent. We know that. They've not been great in the Champions League. I think everyone can see that. It's been a really disappointing Champions League campaign. And league form, I don't think they've been that great either. I think last week against Aberdeen was their best performance of the season. But does that say more about how poor Aberdeen were than how good Rangers were? Potentially. But I think they need to get the league form back on track. I've already said again on this show numerous times, I think Celtic will win this league comfortably. I think they've got far too much strength and depth. But Rangers, I think it's said as well that when you play for Celtic or Rangers, a defeat's a tragedy, a draw's a travesty. You need to win every game. And I just think going to McDermott Park on a Sunday afternoon, 12 o'clock kickoff, given how well St Johnstone are playing just now, it's a difficult game. If Rangers don't win this game, it'll be another massive kick in the teeth for Van Bronckhorst, who, let's be honest, a lot of Rangers fans don't want anyway. And I think in Gio's press conference, I seen something earlier, he was talking about potential that they might lose 10 players in the summer. So they've got a massive rebuild. So, Van Bronckhorst are under a lot of pressure. And if they lose on Sunday, that's just going to intensify.
What do you make of Barry Ferguson's comments that was in today's Daily Record, and they said that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst side are not the worst team to play in the Champions League?
Well, to be fair, he's right, because Hearts haven't been in that yet. So if we get in there, we might just ruin that. But listen, it's been disappointing. Everyone knows that. But Barry Ferguson's an ex-Rangers man, an ex-Rangers captain. He's going to try and be positive. I mean, you can't put many positives on that, can you? It's been a horrendous campaign. And I think as well, it's the fact that in the games that they played, now how can I put this? If you look at Celtic, now, okay, they've not won any games in the Champions League either, but Celtic have been competitive in every game. They've created chances in every game. They've been in games, but they've just not taken their chances. Rangers have been the complete opposite. They've not been very competitive. I mean, look at that game against Liverpool at Ibrox. They were 1-0 up, and you think they could do something here. Then it goes to 1-1, and in the second half, they completely capitulate. I don't think Celtic would have done that. I think Celtic would have got something out of that game potentially. So there's been a lot of poor performances, and to say that Rangers haven't been an embarrassment or they've got the worst record, it's a lie, because they have. They've been awful. But Barry Ferguson's got to try and put a brave face on it. I don't know how we can, because it's been horrendous. So they've got a lot to learn. And I keep going back to this game on Sunday. It's going to be so important. If they lose this game, I generally think Van Bronckhorst is going to be even under more pressure than he already is.
Dave, Reg Scott made a comment in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and keep killing everybody to come on the Friday night and Sunday afternoon as well. He says, how many defeats away from the sack is Gio? How many games is Gio away from getting the sack?
I kind of hinted this to you recently, Michael. I think he'll be given till the World Cup.
Mm.
I think this is a massive week. I think it's a massive week for Rangers, because they've also got St Johnstone and the Hearts, and they've got a game next Saturday as well. And I think next Saturday, the next week will give us a big indication of where Rangers are at right now, and if things don't improve, or they still seem to be dirty laundry, or if confidence still seems to be dampened, I see Rangers making a change. And for me, I think that would be the right time. If they don't make the change at the World Cup, I think Gio will be under massive pressure if he doesn't turn it around from beyond Christmas until the end of the season.
I think that's the right time, Graham, because obviously you've got a window of the World Cup, and if things doesn't go Rangers' way up till then, they've got time to bring in a new manager during the World Cup. But don't do it when the World Cup's over and then bring in a manager, because that won't work. Dave's right there.
100%. And I don't really see Craig Levein leaving Brecon to take the Rangers job, but you never know. But yeah, I think the World Cup will be a great time. If you're going to do a replacement, then do it then. But I think Dave's right. It's a massive week. Obviously, the game tomorrow and then that game against Hearts next week, which I'm not looking forward to because our record in Glasgow is horrendous. Hopefully, that will change. But yeah, it's a big week. Van Bronckhorst has got to win games. And if they go into that World Cup more than 5 or 6 points behind Celtic, the pressure is going to intensify. And I think the January window is going to be really important. I think Rangers potentially need at least 4 or 5 signings in January, where Celtic can just carry on the way they are. I know they've already got a new signing coming in, another Japanese boy, Celtic. But Rangers are going to have to strengthen in January because that squad at the moment doesn't look good enough. Obviously, John Suter can't get that boy fit. So Rangers have got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do. But as I say, the World Cup could be a decent time. But the next few games are going to be so important. They really are. They have to win these games. If they drop any points, I think Van Bronckhorst could be under huge pressure.
Dave, I'm guessing that the last 3 games, obviously, with St Johnstone and Sunday, Hearts and Wednesday night, is it Wednesday? And it's a tricky game. Rangers are away to St Mirren.
That is a tricky game, yeah.
And that's the last game before the World Cup.
Yeah, I predict. Right, I'm going to go. I think Rangers. My head's telling me they'll pick up 9 points. My heart's telling me they'll pick up 7 and draw at St Mirren.
Very, very nice, very nice. I love your comments, guys. Keep them coming in. It says, Figure Bear says that this is a cracking podcast, guys. Definitely need more viewers. Well, there you go. You volunteered as a salesman. So all you need to what did you say that from? If you build it, we will come. Remember that from Graham?
Rome wasn't built in a night.
Yeah, I'll give you that one, but I was thinking of never mind. Okay, sorry about this movie chat. We'll get back on to football. So Sunday it's going to be a very interesting game. But as you were saying, Graham, Celtic find it difficult going up there a few weeks ago, but I think the difference between Celtic and Rangers at the moment is Celtic would find a way of winning the game, and they've got more penalty box strikers. Does that make sense? Can put the ball in the net?
Yeah, potentially. Hang on, I'm just trying to see this comment here from I read Scotland said 3 decent guys on it. Well, 2 and I'm not going to say it. No, I think, yeah, I mean, I really like St Johnstone at the moment. I did say...
By the way, I totally agree with you, Graham, there.
I didn't say who the 2 decent ones were. But I think St Johnstone, for me, they've done a really good job so far. You know, it was mental that we were talking a while ago about Davison getting the sack when he won 2 cups and they got his team at the top 6 and got European football. But we all know it's a results-driven business. If you don't get results, you're going to be under pressure. And I think St Johnstone have done a masterstroke for me getting Nicky Clark in. Nicky Clark's done a really good job so far for St Johnstone, and he's brought the best out of Stevie May. I think Dave mentioned this. He's brought the best out of Stevie May as well. Stevie May's back scoring goals again now. So, I mean, I just wonder, now, maybe this might be it is going to be off topic a little bit, but is there a potential for Stevie May to force himself into the Scotland squad?
I think with his system, he could easily fill in. The way Stevie Clark plays, he would suit Scotland to a T. But I know there'll be a lot of people externally and a lot of the members of the fans going, what the hell are you doing putting in Stevie May, man? But at exactly the same time, he would help the likes of Lyndon Dykes, he would help Shea Adams, he would help Kevin Nisbet when back fit again, he would help. He'd be good for a Lee Griffiths, even for example. I know Lee Griffiths isn't going to get back at the Scotland setup, not for 1 minute, but I think he'd be good for somebody of that calibre.
So, not that we're putting rumours about, because that's not what we do in the show, is it? Is it? I don't know. So if you bring him in the squad, Graham, right? And yeah, I like your thinking there, right? But if you bring him in, would you leave Lyndon Dykes out?
I've got the new Scotland strike force for you, right? Stevie May and Lawrence Shankland. There you go. There's a new strike squad.
I don't think. Sorry. I don't think you have to leave anybody out.
Yeah.
For me, you drop a midfielder out. For me, you drop a midfielder out that you think isn't going to play as big a part.
Can that be Scott McTominay, please?
Potentially, possibly.
Okay, so that's Johnson against Rangers. We'll come back to speak about the Scotland squad on a nice sunny day. Don't know when that will be late enough. The last game of the weekend is Graham's team. Hey,
It's about time you got to that.
I know. Well, you're playing Lask on Sunday, man. I can't help it. Hearts against Motherwell, Graham.
Yes, come on the Jambos. This is a huge game. It genuinely is a huge game. I mean, yesterday, I know a lot of folk look at that again and think another defeat. This is going to sound bizarre. I actually think that was one of our better performances in Europe this season. Even judging by the two, I do. Even with the two games against RFS that we won, I thought yesterday we played with a real energy, a real desire. The game didn't matter. It was a dead rubber. I really liked the fact that he played Connor Smith again. I'm a big fan of Connor Smith. You know, he rested Lawrence Shankland, although he came on later. I would have liked to have seen Finlay Pollock get more of a game. He comes on and sets up the goal. But I think Hearts in a decent place just now. You know, we've got that game against Celtic a couple weeks ago. That was a real positive for me. Now, I know we lost, but it's the performance that really I quite liked. I've said on this show plenty of times that against Celtic and Rangers, Robin Nielsen's record is not great and he tends to be very negative. That wasn't the case a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of Hearts fans reacted to that. It was a much better performance, and we've carried on from that. So I think Hearts in a decent place, but we have to win on Sunday. I'm actually quite glad the European games are finished now, so we can concentrate on the league. We've got 3 big games to come. We've got Sunday's game, then we're at Ibrox, then we play Livingston at home next week. Potentially, I dread Ibrox because our record there is horrendous. I'm hoping to get 7 points out of these 9, but if we get 6, I'll be happy with that. But we need to win on Sunday. You know, we're sitting 6th in the league. I want to be higher than that, of course I do. But performance level is much, much better. I thought yesterday, I didn't manage to see the game because I was working, but I heard it on the radio and I watched the highlights later. And I thought Hearts were actually quite decent. The goals we lost again, so disappointing. You know, the first goal again, I don't know how many times this happened this season. Bonner at the box, free header, goal. And then Craig Gordon, I loved the guy to bits, but that was 2 really poor mistakes for him. I don't know why he comes out for the second goal. It's really poor judgment. So we are getting better. Performances are better. But now we can concentrate on the league. And that's the most important thing. So I'm looking forward to Sunday. Hopefully we'll get 3 points out of this. We need to win this game. But yeah, if we're going to World Cup, we're potentially sitting 3rd or 4th and then build again in January with a few more signings, I'll be delighted with that.
Talking about the World Cup, Graham, we're going to have a few weeks off, but we're still going to be here on a Friday night between 5 and 7. No show on Sunday during the World Cup, but we'll pick up again because, funnily enough, Scotland's not in the World Cup this year. I know, exactly, yeah. But let's hope the women's get into the World Cup because we're going to speak about the Women's Nations League. It's a new Women's Nations League going to kick off next season. So yeah, I mean, Motherwell. You know, it's a good game for them, but I've always said that they're missing a goal scorer, Graham. They're missing a Tony Watt, Kevin Van Veen. I don't think he's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think they rely too much on Van Veen. Again, I think Connor Shields is a decent player, but he doesn't score enough goals for me. They've got a massive win last week against United, obviously at Tannadice. Obviously, the controversy around the red card for Tony Watt, but Motherwell have a decent season so far. You know, they're sitting 7th in the league. It's a big game at Tynecastle. They were looking to win that game. But I think Motherwell have done okay. I think they've brought Stevie Hamill. Hamill ball is working. I think he's done a decent job there. You can see what he's trying to do. So, yeah, it's a big game. But again, I do think they're over-reliant on Van Veen. I know you said that he's not the answer. I think Van Veen's a good player. I really do. Would they get into a Hearts team, a Hibs team? Do you know what? I think he would. I think he is a really good striker. But Motherwell need to pick up wins. It's a big game. It really is a big game on Sunday. I really hope we can get 3 points out of this, but Motherwell and these teams that can be very inconsistent. 1 week they can be great, next week can be really poor. I hope we get the poor version on Sunday so Hearts can win, but I like the job that Hamill's done there so far. I wasn't convinced when he got the job, but I think he's done well so far.
Yeah, no, and as for Hearts, I mean, they would want to continue to build on the running way in yesterday, even though that game didn't mean nothing. But obviously they put in a kind of decent performance, and it's disappointing not to win the game. But the score getting of the away game this season, Graham, that must be a kind of small, tiny positive.
It is, and it shows me that we can create chances. I've mentioned this a couple of mates as well. Now, obviously, I've been on the show being very critical of Robin Nielsen, but he's actually getting results, and the performances have been better. And yeah, getting for the Hearts fans that have travelled away to Florence and Istanbul and Riga to see us scoring goals is great. And I think we have the potential with a really good team there. I really do. And I heard somebody mention yesterday that on the radio, there seems to be a real connection between the fans and the team now. I agree with that. That's not always been the case, but I think the fans can see the players are actually working really hard. And again, see, when you bring youngsters into the team, like a Pollock, like a Connor Smith, like a Henderson, you're going to get a work rate. You're going to get an energy. You're going to get a passion out of them. And I saw that with them last night, and that was great. And I think when we get our strongest team back, because we're still missing the likes of Kingsley, we're missing Halkett, we're missing Boyce, we're missing Benny Beningame, we've still got a lot of players to come back into that team. So when Hearts get the full strength team back, and if we can add to it in January with a couple more signings, another striker, because we've only got Shankland and Humphreys, and another creative midfielder, I think we've got a very good side there. I really do. And I think it could be between us and Aberdeen for that third place. So yeah, Hearts in a good place just now. Really good. And if we can get back to Europe again next season, like Celtic and Rangers, it's a learning curve. A lot of these guys have not played on European football before, so it's been a learning curve for them as well. So they've got a lot to learn, but it's been great having these European games on a Thursday. I've loved it. Really, really good. And hopefully we can get back to that next season.
Yeah, so that's the final game of the weekend, Hearts against Motherwell. We're waiting for team news to come in of tonight's games. We'll bring you that hopefully before the end of the show. Graham, I wanted to stay on football, but move to women's football because yesterday it was announced that there will be a Women's Nations League will take place for the first time this year. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I'll come back to that in a second. I can actually give you the team lines from Pittodrie. So Aberdeen lineup: Roos, McCrory, Scales, Stewart, Barron, Majowski, Duke, Ramdani, Clarkson, Coulson and Richardson. The subs for Aberdeen are Lewis and the goalkeeper, McKenzie, Morris, Bezajun, Watkins, Duncan, Milne, Kennedy and Ramirez. And for Hibernian, it's David Marshall in goals, Porteous, Bashiri, Hanlon, Cadden, Kenny, Newell, Henderson, McGuinness, Cabraha and Kucherevsky. And on the bench for Hibs, it's Dubrovsky, Jair, Stevenson, Mitchell, Merkerson, Ewan, McGregor, Campbell and Fish. So that's the team lineups from Pittodrie tonight. In terms of the women, yeah, fantastic. I actually only seen this earlier on about the Nations League, so it's great that that's getting highlighted. Hopefully, these things will get a good turnout, but it's just great for the women's game to see this coming in, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely, because it says here that the Men's Nations League was introduced in 2018 to the players' international friendlies and more and more competitive games. I don't know about you, Graham, right? But when they had friendly games, it was like what's in paint, right? You know, on a wall. But now that they have Nations League games for the men and the women, it's going to add some competitive edge towards it as well. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly couldn't be bothered with these friendly games, and you saw that a lot of players couldn't either. You know, they were pulling out of things and said it was injuries. It wasn't injuries. You just couldn't be bothered with friendly games, and I understand that. But I think the Nations League's been great. I really do. I think it's been a welcome addition. And it's obviously helped Scotland because with the Nations League, we qualified for the Euros. So it's been a really good tournament for us. So yeah, I think to see this in the women's game as well will be great. And it does cut out these friendly games because they are an absolute waste of time. Nobody wants to play them. You don't get a lot of turnout. The fans can't be bothered with them. So I think it's great that it's getting introduced in the women's game as well. I'll just having a look here to say that it's going to begin in autumn 2023 in the lead up to the 2025 Women's European Championships. Let's try to see what else it says here. So every 4 years, the Nations League will also determine which 3 European sides qualify for the Olympics. So again, it's great. I think it's brilliant that they're going to bring this in, and hopefully the Scotland women's team can get there and qualify for these as well, because it's great to see the men's and women's game flourishing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll tell you what, like.
By the way, guys, thanks very much. I'm waiting to get my tea and then off to Batondre. But first of all, I want to give you my thoughts on this proposal regarding the Nations League. I think it's a very good move for UEFA to go and make. I think it's a good move from the SFA's point of view because obviously it allows the women's team that opportunity to get to European tournaments again. Obviously, they're competitive in terms of the knockout phases, but allows them the opportunity to get back to Euros or get back to a World Cup. And when you look at that, I think it gives Aberdeen I think it gives Scotland so much opportunity just because of the fact that it has the same lucrative games as for the men's team. I mean, there's winnable games in there as well, and that's what I'm saying. It's not as though you're playing Brazil or Argentina. As usual, you're playing some big countries in Sweden, potentially England, potentially Germany. But yeah, I think there's a lot to enjoy, and there's a lot to look forward to, and a lot to be excited about with this.
Well, what do you think? And I know that you cover a few women's football games, Graham, Dave. But what do you make of the female the other night in the middle for the big Champions League game between Real Madrid and Celtic? I thought it was good to see.
Yeah, it was good to see, and I did notice newspaper reports today suggesting she's going to get demoted, which it's not something that I would be appreciating if I was a female. But I can understand why they've done it because of her performance. Now, I'm big in terms of equality here, Michael, but I'm also big in terms of if you put in a great performance, great, because people will back you, people will applaud you and all that kind of stuff. Also, if you've had some poor performances, you've got every justified right to get criticism. And some of the decisions on Wednesday were baffling. Not that I've got anything against Stephanie, but perhaps her getting the demotion that has been perceived to be could be a good thing for her development moving forward.
Yeah, no, definitely. But
thanks, guys. See you later off the Batondre.
Yeah, enjoy the game. Hopefully your team wins. I was just saying that to Dave there about the other night on the Celtic game. It was good to see a female officiating the game, but I don't know if you heard Dave there, but he said that the ref has been demoted because of the kind of, I presume it was for the VR incidents that made the other night, Graham, but that's a bit unfair.
Well, if she's getting demoted, what was I say about John Beaton on that then in this game?
Well, that's clear.
No, it is very harsh, and I keep going back to this. I said this the other night as well. The handball rule is just ridiculous. Nobody seems to know what the rules are anymore. And yeah, I mean, I do think that they were maybe the second one's a little bit harsh, but to be demoted, if that is the reason she's been demoted, then that's an absolutely ridiculous thing to do. People make mistakes, but it's not just her. the people in the VR room were the ones that obviously said to her, go and watch this again. So, I mean, were those decisions clear and obvious? I don't think they were personally. And if that is why she's been demoted, I think that's an absolutely ridiculous thing. And if that's the case, then half the referees in Scotland should be demoted.
Yeah, and not bringing them back. Anyway, yeah, so that's good about the Nations League. Let's move on to rugby then. Don't forget, if you've got a comment to make it between now and 7. Don't make it between now and 8 o'clock because we won't be here. YouTube and Facebook. Just to remind you as well that we're back on Sunday for the big review of the weekend games, and we'll be keeping an eye on the Hearts and Motherwell game, and the Rangers game will be over. So we'll bring you the thoughts of Callum Davison and Van Bronckhorst after the game. Okay, so rugby, Graham, the Autumn Test kicks off tomorrow. I can't believe that's been a year already, but never mind. Scotland plays Fiji tomorrow at Motherfield, 1 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of disappointment with the Scotland rugby just now. There's a lot of people not really happy the way things are going. They got beat 16-15 by Australia last week. I thought they actually played quite well. They were maybe a little bit unlucky. They missed a last-minute penalty kick. They would have won the game. So it's a big game tomorrow. They've still got New Zealand and Argentina to come. But in 2022, Scotland have played 9 tests and they've lost 6 of them.
Yeah,
so it's not a great look.
Yeah.
It's not a great look. And again, a lot of Scotland rugby fans are a little bit disillusioned with how things are going. I'll be honest, I've not watched a lot of the games, so I don't know how badly they've been going. But I think to play against Australia last week and only lose by a point and have the chance to win the game, that's got to be a massive lift. But there does seem to be a lot of Scotland fans who are not particularly happy with the way things are going. So tomorrow's a big game. Now, from what I read, I don't think there's a lot of tickets being sold for tomorrow, which is hugely important because Murrayfield's a big stadium, and if that's half empty, it's not going to look great. Scotland have got a chance tomorrow against Fiji. I think Fiji are a good side, but it's a game that Scotland should be looking to win. But they need to start getting wins on the table here because you're playing against the All Blacks next, and they are such a world class side. So it's going to be difficult. Argentina again, difficult game to come. So Scotland have got to start winning games, and tomorrow will be a big time to do that. But as I said, there does seem to be a lot of folk not particularly happy with Scotland just now. And as I've just read that stat out there now, playing 9 games and lost 6 of them, it's not a great look for Scottish rugby just now.
Now, we were talking about VAR, Graham, right? How about this, right? Scotland gave away 14 penalties against Australia last week to add to an average of 12 per game in 6 nations. By the way, don't mention this to other column if you're watching because we would be here for hours. But yeah, 14 penalties in the game, Graham, you know. I'll just give you a quote from yesterday. Gregor Counding said his team would need to deliver wins and performances starting against Fiji tomorrow. Well, you know, if they don't win them, he'll be out of a job.
Yeah, when you said 14 penalties there, I thought I was going to say penalty Rangers there, but different sport. But yeah, I think Gregor Tyson needs a win. He needs a performance as well. I'm just trying to look and see if I can find the actual team for tomorrow. I did have it up on my list. Here it is. So the Scotland team that was selected is Hogg, Graham, Harris, Redpath, Van der Weyer, Hastings, Price, Schumann, Turner, Fagerson, Gray, Gilchrist, Ritchie, Watson, and there's 2 Fagersons, a Z and an M. So yeah, it's a big game tomorrow, but I just think Scotland last week, they were very good against Australia. But it's just that if they could have just scored that last-minute penalty, they'd won the game and things might have looked a bit better. But it's not been great. So, you know, I like Gregor Tyson as a coach. I think he's a good coach. But if you don't win games in any sport, you're going to be under massive pressure.
Yeah, and that, of course, this is a warm-up to the 6 Nations in the New Year as well?
Yeah, it will be, yeah.
Yeah. Where do we play England again? Is it back Is it back? Is it back up here? I can't remember.
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I need to check that.
But yeah, so that's the game tomorrow against Fiji at 1 o'clock. Fiji. Also, Graham, I mentioned about a big event happening in Glasgow next weekend. Across from Celtic Park, actually, it's the we're talking about tennis now, but by the way, it's the Billie Jean Cup final. They are getting held in Glasgow. Basically, like this is the women's equivalent to the Davis Cup, and the final is getting played in Glasgow at the Emirates between the 8th to the 13th of November. And it will feature 12 of the best tennis players in the world and some of the sport's biggest names competing to win the Billie Jean Cup. So that's a big event, massive event actually, coming to Glasgow next week. And if you want tickets for this, ticket starts from £5 and £10 for adults, and you can get more details on it by going to the Billie Jean King website. Funny enough, the website is billiejeanking.com. Who knew?
Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl.
Brilliant song.
Wrong Billie Jean. You know what I mean? No, it's great. Is Andy Murray playing in that?
You'll be surprised to hear me, but no. You might have a no. Right, okay. No, I forgot where I was. Yeah,
I've got fireworks going off here over my head. I can hear them at the back here.
Cracking, yeah.
Oh, boom, boom! That was a good one. I like that.
Sorry. Yeah,
that's the best show you've made tonight. You'll not top that.
Of all, yeah, I won't, because I'm finished soon for the weekend. But yeah, I mean, brilliant to see a big tournament coming to Glasgow, Graham.
It is, and I'm sure Reagan will be going to that because Reagan likes his tennis, and he was at the last thing that was in Glasgow as well. So yeah, it's great, and hopefully they'll get a decent turnout. As you said, the tickets are reasonably well priced, so hopefully it'll be a good turnout and it'll be a good occasion. I mean, I don't mind tennis. I like Wimbledon, but this is something that I've never been to Glasgow for a tennis thing, so it'll be interesting to see how many folk turn out, and it should be a great tournament as well. And these fireworks are actually doing my head in now.
Well, tickets £5 for children and £10 for adults as well. So as I said, you can find the full details at Billie Jean King Cup.
Billie Jean is not that.
Yeah,
Billie Jean mode now.
Yeah, I know that the more times I say it, yeah. So that begins next week, and it's good to see. The Emma, now the name I'm forgetting the name now.
Is it the tennis one?
Yeah, the US Open. Yeah,
Emma Raducanu.
Yeah, exactly. I knew what her name was, but I just wanted you to say it. She's actually competing as well. So, but yeah, it's good to see big tournaments coming to Glasgow, and I believe that there is no. Do
you know what? No. It's really, we spoke about this before, but it's when you look back to a couple of years ago where like everything was played behind closed doors, you couldn't get in anywhere. You've said this before as well, and it is true. It's just great to have all these different sports back again with fans in them, because for so long we thought this is going to be awful. There's going to be no fans at anything. So to see these tournaments coming to Glasgow, just to see fans back into stadiums again, it is great. And long may that continue, because although COVID is obviously still here, my daughter thought she had that a couple of days ago. Thankfully, touch wood, she's not. But it's just great to have these big tournaments back, and for fans to go see these tournaments, it's great.
I'm not singing like an old man, but I'll sing that an old man, Graham. We've actually came a long way, because I remember when we started the show there wasn't any fans getting into football stadiums or whatever. I think that the first country that brought football fans back in was Germany, and then obviously we've back up to full capacity in all sports as well. But yeah, Murrayfield will look a bit empty if it's not full this weekend as well, and that's a brilliant venue.
100%. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of football at Murrayfield. I've watched a few Hearts games in, and the atmosphere was just horrible. It wasn't great. Stick it for rugby. It's not a football stadium. Feed the Bear says, do you do anything on the boxing on the podcast? Where I live in Pennycook, there's boxing every night, mate. But hit us with it. Hit us with it, innit? We talk about anything on the sport. Sledging, sleigh bells, anything. We talk about it all. Bring it.
If you go up to Circuit Hospital on Saturday night, I'm sure you'll see boxing for nothing, and you won't have to pay to watch it.
Just for Feed the Bear mentions that, actually, I'm looking forward to Tyson Fury against Derek Chisora. That should be a cracking fight, actually.
That's this weekend, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow night.
I think Tyson Fury will win that. Tyson Fury is an unbelievable boxer. Again, I think there was a while ago that he was nominated for Sports Personality of the Year, I think, and he didn't take it. I think it was something like that anyway. But I mean, I think the fight everyone wants to see, or certainly I do, is Fury against Joshua. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen, which is a shame, because I think that'll be a brilliant fight.
Yeah, no, exactly. But you never say never, Graham. I mean, Kevin gets come in there. Independent Live could say, I am planning to do something for boxing. Now, I don't know if he's planning to do some boxing or take up boxing. I'm not sure.
Dave does his boxing.
Yeah. So he says.
I don't know if he just does packaging boxes or if he actually does proper boxing. I'm on fire tonight. Woohoo!
Fireball.
I'm far too hyper for a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I'm just going to remind you about some other sports, because we like to talk about other sports as well.
Is Tiddlywinks a sport?
Yeah, no, but it will be now.
Okay.
It's an Olympic sport, I've heard. So we've got the champion of that coming on the show next week. I may get him out of my pocket. I don't know why I'm telling you about this, Graham, right? Because it kicks off in half an hour, and if you're not a Brayhead, you might not get in. I'll say it anyway, right?
Is this hockey?
Yeah, how good you guess? Hockey. Glasgow Clan is playing Belfast Giants tonight. That's a 7:30 game. And also tonight, let me see. Tonight, it's you've missed that game as well. I'm not doing too well. It's 7:30 kickoff. The Glasgow Graduates are playing Briscoe Friars. Better say that with my teeth in them. So that is a 7:30 kickoff for that one.
That Tyson Fury Chisora fight is the 3rd of December. It's on a Saturday.
Right, okay, that's cool.
Feed the Bear says, I still want to see Big Fury versus AJ. I think that's the fight everyone wants to see. I really do. But I think I kind of agree with Ed Scotland. I think Fury would actually comfortably beat Joshua. I wouldn't say this to his face because he's much bigger than me, but I think AJ is probably a bit overrated at times. I think Fury's a far better fighter. So yeah, that's the fight everyone wants to see.
And do you think they'll go to America for that fight, or do you think they'll keep it in here?
No, how about at Murrayfield? How about at Murrayfield? Then we can go and watch it.
Well, you can have it at Murrayfield tomorrow, Graham, because you think that the tickets haven't getting sold. So
I know. No, I think they probably will do America. Madison Square Garden or something like that. That'd be brilliant. But I think, to be honest, I think AJ would probably get destroyed as well. I just think Fury's a far better fighter, better technically. He's a bigger man as well. So I would love to see it. But I think the thing about boxing that always kind of at times infuriates me is the trash talk before it. Where it's happened numerous times. It's happened numerous times where you get fighters that go up to each other and they have all these words with each other. And after the fight, they hug each other. Nah,
I know. I
hate
don't
that.
understand that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, well, that's equivalent of the ref being the centre's attention to VAR, because at the press conference, you see like the bouncer and all that holding them back, but that's all for show. Then get the fight there like that. I'm sorry I beat you, mate. I'm sorry I punched you as well, but I just done it for the money.
Well, if I would not be a boxer. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I've heard that numerous times.
Hey, boom, boom,
But,
yeah.
no, I mean, I do think the boxing is great, and my wife's uncle loves boxing. He's a big fan of that, and it is a great sport. But just the trash talker before it is, it does get on my nut at times. It's really frustrating when you see them all with the trash talking, and after it they're hugging each other. Nah, didn't do that. If you hate somebody, just hate them.
Exactly. I don't know if you've been to boxing, Glenn, but it's a brilliant atmosphere. I mean, I went to the first fight when Amir Khan became professional, and this is how long ago it was. Scott Harrison, remember him? Remember that guy?
Amir Khan won the Olympics, did he not?
Yeah. No, but this was after the London Olympics. It was the first professional fight.
Who was the oh, it's going to annoy me now. I don't know if the guys on the chat can tell me this. Who's the guy from, is it Glasgow? Charlie somebody?
Yeah, the postman.
I can't remember his
Charlie
name.
Flynn.
Charlie
Flynn. Yeah.
He's a really good boxer.
Yeah. Funnily enough, you don't see him about now.
No, you don't at all. You don't even really hear his name now either. That's why I forgot it. I knew his name was Charlie. I couldn't think of his last name.
But yeah, I mean, seeing this way, if you haven't been to the boxing gym, I would recommend you going to a big fight, because the atmosphere was brilliant at the fight. In fact, Andy Murray was at that fight as well.
Maybe we should do that when he gives up tennis.
Yeah, well, I think he's halfway there. I know, but yeah, I mean, we speak about all sports in this program, Grim.
We do. We've got a very wide range of sports, and for the guys that are new to the show, so we are on every. I know you've mentioned this before, but I'll say it anyway. We are on every Friday.
Yeah,
we're on every Friday from 5 till 7. We talk about pretty much most sports, predominantly football, but we do try and talk about other sports. And we're also on every Sunday as well from 3 till 5, where we talk about the games that have happened at the weekend and the games that happen on the Sunday. So tell everyone that that you know, that you love, or maybe you don't love, that we're on. We're doing the shows this last few weeks as well for the European games, but there's none now. But we are here every Friday, every Sunday, and it's great to have people commenting. It's great to have Feed the Bear and Red Scotland commenting. It's been great to have you guys on tonight. So, yeah, tell everyone that we're here. Indie Live Radio, Independence Live. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Hey, Graham, I don't know if you saw this before you come on. I've only saw it now. Scotland is getting, yeah, yeah, that's in the Sunday show, Sunday special. Hampden is getting a revamp. They're getting a makeover.
Oh, Feed the Bear, that made me laugh. Didn't he do that to me on a live show, mate? That made me laugh. Yeah, I think it's needed it. I mean,
14 million.
What, comments? Brilliant. No, I wish.
No women. No, I mean,
no, I think Hampden's needed that. It's brilliant to see it finally get done. I mean, I quite like going to Hampden for football as a Hearts fan. When you go to Hampden, you know you're in a big game, so I quite like it. But at times it maybe can do a little bit more work. So it's great to see it's actually going to get revamped. I don't know what they'll do with it, but it is great to actually get it get done up, because I think it has been needed for a long, long time.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, talking about rugby as well, Graham, I've not been watching this as well. I've not been really watching it. The Rugby World Cup is on at the moment, and it's good to see that they're playing the Rugby World Cup and the Wheelchair World Cup at the same time as well. And Wales and Scotland were beaten today in the World Cup League opening game in Sheffield. They get beat by France 15-6.
Disappointing. I didn't know that until you mentioned that. Yeah, disappointing. Hopefully, I'm assuming there'll be more games to come so they can hopefully get back into it.
Hey, well, that was short and sweet by Duffy there. Yeah. Yeah.
My wife says that all the time. Different show.
Yeah, that's for the Sunday show. Yeah. Yeah, that was
You can tell it's getting near 7 o'clock.
I know, yeah, that was actually quite funny, actually. Yeah, it's a pretty well on air, or else I could have argued to that joke a wee bit more, but I can't. You've got to wait another 10 minutes, Graham, before I can reveal the joke. So yeah, I mean, Scotland is in the Rugby World Cup. I think they play in America in that game, in the World Cup as well. So there we go. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see that again highlighted because that's on the TV as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of get championship highlights or League One, League Two highlights, but it's great that this is getting highlighted. We'll not go into that.
Yeah,
that's another show.
Yeah, that's a Monday night show. But yeah, that's good to see different sports getting kind of like highlighted, apart from football. Because we only get 3 hours every week, including Chris Boyd on Sky. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's gonna be a weird weekend then, right? Because 2 games come out, 2 games on Sunday, and 2 games on. No, 2 nights, 2 nights, 2 games tonight. It's been a long show, by the way. 2 nights, 2 games tonight, 2 games come on, 2 games on Sunday, Graham.
Yeah, definitely. And as you've quite rightly mentioned, none of the games tonight are on TV, apart from the championship games. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. There's other games next Wednesday as well, and then next Saturday and Sunday as well, I think.
I think there's games on Tuesday as well, Graham.
Yeah, I think there is, because obviously it's World Cup coming up, so they want to get these games in, as soon as they can. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how these games develop over the weekend. As I say, I think tonight, I think Aberdeen will win. I think Kilmarnock, Livingston, might just sneak it. Tomorrow, I think Celtic will probably hammer United by 5 or 6, maybe more. But the big games on Sunday for me, Hearts Motherwell, come on the Jambos. And that's the Johnston Rangers game. Again, such a big game. If Rangers were to lose that, we've just mentioned that Van Bronckhorst could be under massive pressure. So yeah, interested to see what happens this weekend.
Feed the bears off, he said. Right, boys, I'm away for a dance. Don't know what it means for that.
Hope you get that pull up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are saying about the World Cup, right? It's been on at the Christmas, and it doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel like how Scotland's on it. But there's one good thing to come from the World Cup, Graham, and you know what it is? There's not going to be a winter break this year.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good that the players are going to get a rest. I think they need it. I think every team does, to be honest. There's been a lot of games getting played. I know that Hearts absolutely need this break because we've just looked absolutely exhausted. So, yeah, I think it's coming at a good time. And, this is probably... It's a good thing that Scotland haven't qualified because it's in Qatar and it's the one country you can't drink in. So, where's the fun in that? So, I mean, I know a lot of folk have said the World Cup's going to be awful. I disagree. I'm looking forward to it. I love World Cups. I love European games. They're brilliant. And I think there's 4 games potentially every day, all kicking off at different times. I can't wait. World Cups get me up for it. My lad will probably watch it as well. So I can't wait for the World Cup.
Yeah, It's gonna, yeah. I suppose it's gonna kind of like I hate using this word because it's a bit of a cliche sometimes, but like I'll say it. Yeah, um, it's gonna inspire more people to get into football or sports in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've said this before, but my laddie plays football every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. And for a while, it took him a long time to get into it, but now he loves it, and it's great. I get to go along and watch him, and he's enjoying it, and that's the main thing. When you're that age, he's only 10, so I think it's great that they're enjoying it at that age. Now, there are times when I watch him on a Sunday and think he doesn't look up for it because it's absolutely freezing, and there's times I go along as well and think I can't be bothered with this either. But he loves it, and he loves watching Liverpool. He loves watching Hearts. Maybe not Hearts, but Liverpool certainly. But it's just great that he's getting into it, and I love watching him getting excited for these. And I think the World Cup's going to be really interesting. And I have a little outside bet. I'm not bet yet, but I have a little outside thing that I think Belgium could win this. They're a really, really good side. You know, Kevin De Bruyne are one of the best midfielders in the world. I think Belgium have got a very good chance for this. I think you're looking at Brazil or Argentina potentially as favourites for this, but I just think I really have a sneaky feeling for Belgium. I really do.
I really can't get up for the World Cup, Grim. I don't know if it's because like obviously I'm used to Scotland not being in it, but I mean they're playing the World Cup at Christmas as well. I mean, I watch it when the game's on, but I mean I would feel a bit weird, and I feel a bit weird as well when the season's finished and that's supposed to be the World Cup and nothing's on.
Yeah, it's true. And I think as well, when the World Cup ends, I'm sure there's games like Premier League games, because I know Hearts have got one on Christmas Eve, which does feel very, very strange. They're playing on Christmas Eve.
There's a full card on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I thought there was. That can't have happened many times that there's games on Christmas Eve. But listen, I love football. I'm generally excited, and I think the World Cup will be really good, as long as England get knocked out quite early. But yeah, I just think I'm looking forward to it. I generally am. And I just think it's great to have these 4 games. I don't know how many I get to watch because I'll probably be working, but I just can't wait to watch it. And I think it's great that players are getting a break. Obviously, the players that aren't getting a break for the international football will be playing for the national teams. But again, we keep saying it. It's great for these, like Australia, Natty Atkinson for Hearts, Ryan McGowan for St Johnstone. It's great these guys are going to get recognition. By the time they come back, they'll need a break because they'll be absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, Fiegler makes a good point because I was wondering about that as well, about the time zones, Graham. I don't know if they'll be playing the games when we are all sleeping and all that, but you might have 1 or 2 games when we get up for work or whatever, but I think that the majority of the games will be during the night.
Well, I can tell you that the first game, Qatar Ecuador, is at 4 o'clock on the Sunday. Then the next day you've got 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
It's not
all
very
different times.
It's not a very exciting game, that first one, Graham.
There's ones a couple of days later where there's a game at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's one at 1 o'clock, there's one at 4 o'clock, and there's one at 7 o'clock. And that'll be the same for the rest of them. So they kick off at 10, then at 1, then at 4, then at 7. So you've got 4 games. You've got 4 games every day.
They're going to squeeze a lot of games into a short space of time because the first game back. I think the first game back is Christmas Eve, or maybe they've got one before that. I can't remember.
There's one before that because I'm sure Hearts play on the 17th or something.
Oh, they yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting times, but it's how they're playing the World Cup, Graham. It's all to give him money.
Oh, of course it is. And we know about the kind of human rights element about Qatar as well. But
yeah,
I just think to have a World Cup in Qatar isn't the best, but it's football. It's a World Cup, and I'm genuinely excited for it. I know Scotland aren't there, but I'm just excited for it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks to Graham and Dave for joining me tonight. We'll be back on Sunday for the big review, about also keeping an eye on the Hearts Motherwell game and Rangers St Johnstone game. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again on Sunday.